Okay, let's get into this. Today we're doing a deep dive into a really powerful story from an ancient text, Daniel chapter 3.
Hmm.
It's just packed with themes of power, incredible defiance, and, well, things you just don't see coming.
And the setting is so important to grasp.
Mhm.
We're talking about the absolute height of the Babylonian Empire
Right.
under King Nebuchadnezzar, a time of uh, just immense power concentrated in one place and real pressure to fall in line.
Yeah, intense pressure. And Nebuchadnezzar makes this demand for loyalty, well, unavoidable. He sets up this huge golden image.
Huge is an understatement, really.
I mean, 90 feet high, 9 feet wide. Can you even picture that standing out on a plane?
It's designed to dominate the landscape,
Yeah.
and he puts it right there on the plain of Dura in Babylon province, very public.
And it's not just art, is it? It's the focus of this mandatory dedication ceremony.
Absolutely mandatory. He summons everyone. The text lists them out: satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges.
Bigwigs.
Pretty much every official in the provinces. They had to be there. No excuses.
And once they're all gathered, the command comes down. And it's tied to music, which is fascinating.
Yeah, a herald shouts it out for everyone, all peoples, nations, languages.
And the rule is simple, brutally simple. When you hear the music, this whole orchestra, basically, horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes.
All kinds of music, it says.
Right. The second you hear it, you fall down. You worship the golden image, period.
And the or else is crystal clear. No ambiguity.
None at all. If you don't bow.
You're immediately thrown into a blazing
A
furnace.
terrifying, instant, fiery death, no trial, no appeal.
Exactly. Worship or burn. That was the choice presented.
So the music plays, and, well, predictably.
Everyone goes down. The text says all the peoples, nations, and men of every language fell down and worshipped.
Complete compliance. You can almost picture that scene, this vast field of people bowing.
Which makes what happens next just stand out so starkly.
Because not everyone bowed.
In that whole crowd, some people didn't comply. A very dangerous choice.
And who points them out? It says some astrologers.
Right. They approach the king. And they're not just tattling, they're making a formal accusation.
Against specific individuals.
Yes, naming Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These Jewish exiles.
And these weren't just random people, were they? The king knew them.
He certainly did. The text explicitly says Nebuchadnezzar himself had appointed them, set them over the affairs of the province of Babylon.
So they were administrators, people he'd promoted?
Which makes their alleged defiance even more, well, galling to the king, you'd imagine.
Definitely. And the charge? They paid no attention to the king's command.
Specifically,
They didn't serve his gods, and crucially, they didn't worship this golden image he'd just set up.
which, given the context and the penalty, was basically treason, a capital offense.
You can just feel Nebuchadnezzar's reaction build.
Yeah.
His text says he was furious with rage.
Just absolutely livid, his authority questioned by his own appointees.
His response is immediate. Summon them. Now.
No hesitation. Bring them here.
So they're dragged before this enraged king, face to face.
And he asked them point blank, "Is it true? Is it true you don't serve my gods or worship my golden image?"
He's checking the facts, maybe giving them one last chance to, recant?
It seems like less of a chance to explain and more of a final ultimatum. He lays it out.
Yeah, he says, okay, listen. The music's going to play again. If you're ready then, when you hear it, to fall down and worship, fine.
Fine. But the alternative?
No wiggle room. But if you do not worship, you will be immediately thrown into the blazing furnace.
Immediate. That word keeps coming up. No delay.
And then he throws down this challenge aimed right at their god.
Oh yeah, this is pure hubris, isn't it?
Yeah.
He basically says, then what god will be able to rescue you from my hand?
He's putting his power up against any divine power they might believe in. Supreme confidence.
So the ultimate threat, the ultimate challenge. How do they respond?
Their response is just stunningly calm, so firm. They essentially say, "Oh, king, we don't need to defend ourselves to you in this matter."
No panic, no trying to negotiate, just clarity.
And then they state their faith.
They say, look, the God we serve is able to save us.
He can save us from the furnace, and he can rescue us from your hand, O king.
That's the first part. A declaration of God's power, his capability.
But then comes the line that, for me, changes everything. It's just breathtaking conviction.
But even if he does not part.
Exactly. Think about that. Facing this horrific death, certain death, really.
And they say, even if God doesn't intervene, even if he chooses not to save us.
We want you to know, O king, we still will not serve your gods or worship the golden image.
Wow. Their obedience isn't conditional on deliverance.
No. Their conviction is absolute. It's about loyalty to their God, whatever the personal cost. Survival isn't the main goal.
And that response, that absolute refusal from a place of, well, apparent powerlessness,
Yeah.
it just pushes Nebuchadnezzar over the edge.
Yeah, the text says his attitude toward them changed. He goes from furious to something else, even more enraged.
His authority met its match in their conviction, and he couldn't stand it.
So his command reflects this escalated fury. Heat the furnace.
Not just hot, but 7 times hotter than usual.
7 times? What does that even mean practically? Just unbelievably, lethally hot.
It's about making a point. Utter destruction. Annihilation.
And he gets his strongest soldiers.
The toughest guys in the army. Their job, tie these 3 men up securely
And throw them in.
into that inferno.
And there's that detail about their clothes. They're thrown in fully dressed robes, trousers, turbans, everything.
Still bound, just hurled into the fire.
And the heat, it's so intense.
The soldiers, the strong soldiers carrying them to the furnace.
They die just from the flames reaching out.
Killed by the heat before they even finish the job. It underscores the deadliness of that fire.
And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, still tied up, fall into the middle of it.
So, from Nebuchadnezzar's perspective, job done, defiance crushed.
But then something impossible happens. The king is watching.
And he leaped to his feet in amazement, just jumps up, stunned.
He turns to his advisors like he can't believe his own eyes.
Asks them, didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them in the fire?
And they confirm, yes, O king, definitely 3.
And the king says,
Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire.
4, not 3.
Unbound.
Unbound and unharmed.
Unbound. The ropes are gone. And unharmed in a fire that just killed his soldiers.
It's completely impossible by any natural explanation.
And then he describes the 4th figure.
He says he looks like a son of the gods, or some translations say a divine being.
The king who challenged their god is now seeing something divine in his own furnace.
The irony is thick, isn't it?
So what does he do? The king who was so sure no god could save them.
He goes right up to the opening of the furnace, this superheated furnace.
And he calls out to them, but listen to how he calls them.
A total shift. Servants of the Most High God.
A complete reversal from moments before. He acknowledges their God's supremacy.
And he tells them, come out. Come here.
And they just walk out.
Imagine the silence. All those officials watching.
And they gather around, the satraps, prefects, governors, everyone, they examine them.
And the evidence is overwhelming, undeniable.
The text is so specific here, the fire had not harmed their bodies.
Nor was a hair of their heads singed.
Their robes were not scorched.
And there was no smell of fire on them.
Nothing. Not even the smell of smoke. After walking around in a furnace hot enough to kill soldiers instantly.
It's absolute irrefutable proof of a miracle.
Which leads Nebuchadnezzar to make this incredible public declaration.
A complete turnaround. He starts by praising their God. Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
He says God sent his angel, rescued his servants, and he understands why.
Yes, he explicitly says it's because they trusted in him and defied the king's command.
And were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. He gets it. He sees their conviction led to this.
So then comes the new decree, a royal command protecting their God.
Anyone, anywhere, any language, if they speak against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
The penalty is severe. Dismemberment, houses turned into rubble.
And he gives the reason. For no other God can save in this way.
A public testimony from the most powerful man in the world at the time, acknowledging a power greater than his own, demonstrated right before his eyes.
And the immediate result for the 3 men?
From facing death to promotion.
The king promotes them right there in the province of Babylon. A stunning end to the ordeal.
It's just such a dense, dramatic story. So much happens.
When you step back from it, all the statue, the command, the defiance, the furnace, the rescue, what really hits you, what resonates?
For me, it really crystallizes that conflict between, well, immense external pressure, like absolute political or social power demanding conformity,
Right.
and this immovable internal conviction, a loyalty to something higher, something non-negotiable.
And the fact that their stand wasn't, based on, we know we'll be saved.
Exactly. That even if not is crucial. Their faith wasn't transactional. It was absolute. That's profound.
It really is. It makes the miracle almost secondary to the faith that preceded it. Though the miracle itself, the details unbound, unharmed, the fourth figure, it's just staggering.
It forces you to think, doesn't it,
Yeah.
about our own lives. Maybe the pressures aren't a literal furnace,
Hopefully not.
but we all face situations where our core beliefs, our values, rub up against powerful expectations from work, society, maybe even family or friends.
Yeah, what's the furnace in our context? What does it cost to stand for something? And are we willing to pay that price?
This ancient story just lays it bare. You have this seemingly absolute human power,
Nebuchadnezzar.
meeting an unshakable conviction rooted in faith.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
And the result is something completely unexpected, something beyond human control or prediction, a divine intervention that validates their stand.
It definitely makes you ponder the limits of earthly authority when it confronts deeply held faith.
And it leaves you with this possibility, doesn't it? The possibility of outcomes that just defy all worldly logic, maybe sparked by integrity under pressure.
A lot to chew on there. What would you have done on that plane? Worth thinking about.